We're going to talk about the way we source our material. These obviously a pile of pallets that we're going to take apart. We're going to break everything down for you. Talk about what we're going to get out of these pallets and what we're going to use them for. There's all different kind of wood that's used for pallets. You're going to have some various types of oaks, red oaks, white oaks. You're going to have spruce, which is soft and basically a little on the stringy side. You're also going to have southern yellow pine. Whatever wood the company happen to have available is what they're going to use for their pallets, and they're just going to slam them together and then use them until they're no good anymore for their uses or a one-time shipping, and they're going to get rid of them. So what I do is at our recycling center, they drop off pallets, and every couple of weeks I'll pick out the best of the bunch depending on what I need. I'll bring them here and then I'll break them down, and that's what we're going to look at. So part one of our material sourcing video is going to be how to deal with these pallets and what we have to do to pre-process them in order to make them usable for a lot of the things that you'll see coming out of our shop. Okay, all right, well, let's get started. We'll start breaking this down literally and figuratively. All right, not only do the pallets come in different types of wood, they also come in different thicknesses. The slats come different thicknesses. The base pieces, dunnage, if you will, they come in different sizes also. And depending on how successful you are breaking them down, you can use quite a bit of these for different features. These thicker ones we'll usually use for the subframe, something you're not going to see. Then the thinner ones we'll use for the finish. They'll get finished a couple of different ways: sanded finish, a wire brush finish, or they'll actually be run through a planer, and they'll be brought down into a very smooth, nice finished piece. Okay, now this one that I'm using for my table, my demonstration table, this looks to be spruce, and it's very thin. It's about 3/8 to barely a 1/2 inch thick, and this will get used for a rough-looking, rustic type project. And you'll notice that this has 4 base pieces. They're more narrow than the last one we looked at, and it's nailed in 4 places. Now you're going to have nail holes when you deal with pallets, depending what you want to make out of everything. You'll have sections that have no damage, and you'll have sections that look, like they're supposed to, like reclaimed lumber, reclaimed wood. Okay, so that's it for this particular one here. We'll look at one more, and then we'll get started on the actual breakdown. So this looks to be white oak, this particular pallet. The last one we'll look at real quick. These are the hardest to work with, to break apart. The hardwoods, the red, the white oak, those types of woods, they're the hardest to get out. They use a screw, air-driven nail to set them into the base, and they not only have the screw shank, but those nails have actually a coating on it that as it goes into the wood, the nail gets hot, the coating melts and becomes like a glue to get them out. So these are really tough to get out, and I'll show you how to get these, try and get these apart. You're going to break some, so make sure you always have enough to get your project done. Okay, with the hard pallets, the hardwood pallets, the oaks and all, by virtue of the base pieces and the slats being hardwood and using the screw nails, those air-driven screw nails, it's going to be real hard to get these apart. The first thing I recommend, and I found to be best for me, I see on the shows where the host goes at the pallet with the crowbar and just pops it all out, and then they go and they put it on the wall, and it's nicey nice. Not been my experience. My experience is you got to do a little extra work on these. Now, the ends of the hardwood, when you try to pop these off, I almost guarantee you they're going to split because of those nails being buried in there. So since they're going to split anyway, and you can see some of it's already starting to split off, since it's going to split anyway, what I do is I'll run the saw down the inside line of the two sides, and then all I have to do is take the center out, and I have a special tool I'll show you in a minute to take the center out. So let's do that. Let's run the saw down, and then we'll get the pallet broken down, deconstructed, if you will. All right, I ran the saw down both sides. They're all loose with the exception of the centerpiece. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna drop this onto the ground, and I'm gonna show you the nifty little tool I got for breaking the pallets up. Okay, so that'll be our next step. All right, so this is made specifically to break up pallets. If you take a look real quick, you'll see the front jaws, they're flexible, and it's got a place that becomes the fulcrum. It sits on one of the bases of that pallet, and what it does is we're going to go in, we're going to slide these entirely under the slat, and as we put pressure, it's going to start to lift, and it's going to lift the slat up evenly, and it's not going to break most of the time. They're still going to break. Always make sure you bring extra. So this is going to go in under here, and once I got it under the whole pallet, put a little pressure, back it up a hair, and then a little lift at the end, and I got my piece nicey nice out and not broken. All right, I'm going to break down the rest of this pallet here, and then we're going to go in the shop, and we're going to see how we pre-work all these, get them all ready for our different projects. All right, well, we broke the pallet up into all these into its components, and we got a few more steps before we can start milling these and getting them ready, or pre-milling, because what we're going to do is we're going to give a nice edge on one side, a nice edge on the other, 90-degree, and the other two we're going to leave because we don't know how wide we're going to make these. We don't know what they're for yet. We're just getting them ready so we have a pile of material that we can use. Okay, so first things, we'll get the nails out. And just one a little tip. That's my metal scrap that goes to the recycle. All the nails we pull out and pieces of anything that's that can go in the metal bin goes in there. So we don't throw anything out into a landfill. We don't have to. We try and recycle everything. Okay, when you're pulling nails out, if the nail's high and you're trying to pull it out, you're going to get a lot of resistance. So what you want to do is you want to put a block under the head of your hammer. The hammer is going to be at or a little higher than the top of the nail, and then when you pull, it comes straight out. Okay, you see it'll come out this way. If the hammer is lower, as you're pulling, that nail's going to come towards you, and it's not going to come straight out. There's going to be more friction. It's going to be harder to get out. So that's a little tip of breaking these things down. Once you've got the pieces, put a block under your hammer and use that. Get a little bit of extra leverage. Okay. All right. Last of the breakdown portion of this video. Inevitably, some are going to break. They were either split when you got the pallet, or they split when you took it out. Okay, a couple of these were split when I got the pallet, and another one I split when I was taking it apart. But it happens. There's nothing you can do about it. So why am I not just throwing this out? Well, I've got over 1.25 inches of good material here. And then obviously it gets a little bit wider. I run this through the table saw. I got 1.25 inch piece. Now, if you make, we make the wooden flags here, and the flag has certain ratios for the sizes of the stripes and the field and the stars and all that. So the size flag we make, 24, the most common 24 by 13. These slats for the bars need to be just a hair over 7/8 of an inch to be in a proper ratio for the flag. So I can actually get a flag out of this, or I can get a piece of the subframe to the flag out of this. We cut them, we use the 7/8 also for the backing of the flag, for the frame of the flag. So even though it looks crappy, we can still use this, all right? And again, it's reclaimed. We don't want to waste this wood and just throw it in the fire pit. What do we do with the cut off piece that we can't use? That goes in the fire pit, goes in the wood burning stove. Okay, so it again doesn't make its way to a landfill or anything like that. The base pieces, the softer woods, the spruce ones, the pine ones, you can probably get the nails out of those and be able to use them. These nails, I'll tell you right now, are probably not coming out of here. They're rusted. They have that glue on it from the nailing process that we've been talking about. These are not coming out. All right. So when you have a hardwood piece of fir or one of the oaks, they're not coming. All right. So you got to be careful. If you try and use these, and any piece of the nail breaks off and stays in the wood, when you run it through your planer or your joiner, you're going to nick the blades, and then that's a whole new horror show to deal with. Okay. So these pieces, unfortunately, most of them. I cut them up and they get burnt. And I'll burn these in my fire pit because I have a magnet that when I get the ashes, I'll just run the magnet through the ashes. I pull all the nails out. They go into my little bucket, into the recycle, and then all the ashes go into the garden or into the compost pile, or just back into the woods. Okay, so that's it with the breaking down. Let's talk about how we mill, pre-mill, and finish these. And that'll wrap up the pallet portion of our sourcing video, okay? All right, first step. What we're going to do is we're going to make two nice edges, an edge and an end. It's going to be 90 degrees, so we'll be able to make accurate measurements and know what we have stock-wise. So the first thing we'll do is we're going to take the slats that we've pulled apart, pick the nicest side, and we're going to run it through the joiner. Now what the joiner does is the joiner is going to take any little beveling or waves out of the edge of this piece, and it's going to make it 90 degrees to one of the faces. So we're going to pick a nice face. We're going to pick a nice edge. We're going to hold the nice face to the fence. We're going to hold the nice edge to the bed. And what's going to happen is the piece is going to enter on the short side of the joiner. And it's going to go into the high side once it goes through the blade, the spinning blades. What we've done is we've looked down the edge and we've picked this edge as being the relatively straightest, but if you can see, it's got all rough little bumps and whatnot on it. Can't glue this. Glue is not strong by itself. You need two nice edges to glue properly, and we do a lot of gluing with these different pieces. We make larger panels out of these slats. So run this down the joiner, and we're going to wind up with a nice edge. Once we have all of our pieces with one nice edge, we're going to go over to the chop saw, the miter saw, and we're going to put a 90 degree on one end, and then that's it. Then they go in the rack and they'll wait. Because we may not use this whole piece. We may need 3 pieces out of here, depending on what we're going to use this for. So why make all nice edges on all sides? All we need are the 2 for now, and then we'll get involved with the sizing later. This is all of our pre-milling that we do in the winter up here when it's kind of hard to work in the shop. Okay, so I'll mill one of these up, and then we'll look at the edges, and we're going to discuss. What finishing we do on the faces. All right, last part of the pre-milling, and then we'll get ready to wrap this up. We'll talk about how we finish these, depending on a different purpose that each piece is going to serve. We take our nice, freshly jointed edge, nice and straight, and we'll put it against our fence, and we'll cut it 90 degrees, and then that's it. That's going to go into the rack. What we're going to do is, for this particular function, we could take 2 or 3 of these, 4 of these at once, put them in, drop the saw down, cut it 90 degrees, into the rack they go, and that's it. That's how we pre-mill our pallet wood. All right, we got our stuff all cut. It's edged. It's ready to be make the final cuts, final sizes, and then put into whatever project we're making. Now, depending on what type of project, you're going to want to finish the wood, the material, differently. You might like the rustic, out of the box pallet roughness. Okay, maybe that's what you're going for, the rustic look. Well, in that case, wire brush, clean it off, put the project together and finish it. All right, I got a nice edge. If I need to glue, I'll have all nice edges once I make my final sizes and so on. If you have, or if you're inclined to, they also make a bunch of different types of tools. This is a wire brush, but it's on a power tool. And what this does is this will obviously will spin, and it takes off any dirt or any real bad high spots, but it leaves the grain and it leaves that beaten up reclaimed look that you may want for your wood. So we'll also use this and the wire brush for tight areas. And as all of our shop work, we set up with our vacuum. It goes on the back, sucks up probably 90% of the dust that we have, so we don't wind up with dust everywhere. If you want something a little more finished, but not perfect, then what you're going to do is maybe sand, a belt sander, an orbital sander, a pad sander, and obviously different grits of sandpaper, and that again will give you a different type of look. And lastly, there's one thing that we do on all of our pieces. These pallet slats are all different widths, are all different thicknesses. So what we do is one side of that pallet slat is going to get run through the planer. And once it's planed down to the thickness, so all of our slats are a similar thickness, then we'll decide, depending on the project, if we're going to run the second face through it and make it smooth, a nice smooth, quote-unquote perfect finish. All right, so that's what we'll do with the planer. Now, one note about the planer: these pieces, you got to make sure there's no nail parts of nails, pieces of nails. There's a little ring on those nails that hold them in the strip when they're in a nail gun. A little piece of copper that sometimes will get embedded in here. What you got to do is you got to make sure there's no metal in here. You'll be nicking these blades and you'll be changing them or sharpening them on a regular basis, and you don't want to have to do that. So what I have is I actually have a metal detector, and before these go anywhere near my planer, I give them a good visual inspection, and then they go through the metal detector and make sure there's no pieces that I missed, because the blades are going to get nicked and they're going to get ruined. Some blades you can flip over; they're straight, and you can use the 2 sides. Some are easy to replace. Some have a special head, and it's a helical head. It's not a straight blade. It's actually curved around the drum, and that's a whole nother story. You don't want to be dinging those things up. So if you're going to run these through a planer, make sure that you have gotten all the metal out of them. All right, so that's it. rough, rustic, a little bit less rustic. And if you put it through the planer, you can make it really nice. Let me just grab a piece of stuff over here and see if you can see this. This is actually some red oak that went through the planer, and this came off a pallet. But it's nice. It's a piece of red oak. It's a piece of really nice stuff. Now, red oak and white oak. White oak's a little bit better for fine stuff. It's got a different grain set to it. The red oak actually has a very large grain, very large veins in it. You can cut a short piece of red oak and blow through the end, and the air will move through it. Okay, it's not as dense as the white oak, but red oak you could still do some really nice stuff with it. But this went through the planer, and it was part of a project where I needed nice stuff. I use this for pieces of inlay into maple to give it a little color, a little color contrast, that type of stuff. But this at one time was a pallet. Came out of a piece of pallet. So that's it. That's how we finish our stuff. In the next couple of days, we're going to be taking down at least one of our dead white pines, and we're going to add that into part 2 of this sourcing of our material. And you'll see how we pretty much spend the really cold, wintry months up here in New England. All right? Thanks, and we'll see you again next time.